Satchidananda Guru Satchidananda
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 Jai Shri Satguru Maharaj Ki
Jai.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
They say before we incarnate, and we're making our plans for the incarnation, there are 3 things we ask for. Do you know what they are? Nalani knows, I'm sure. Heike knows, I'm sure. Vivek should know. Okay, human body, healthy body, and an authentic teacher. Okay, we got it. Everybody in this room already got that. Okay? So this is the most highly desirable, to have an incarnation with a healthy human body and an authentic teacher. So we've already got our foundation in place. We not only got an authentic teacher, we got a very, very remarkable teacher. There was one Thanksgiving at Yogaville that the lady who handles the satsangs came to me and said, Divyananda, do a little tribute to Gurudev, a little Thanksgiving tribute. So I went home and I started writing down things to be thankful about. And it was just too much, it was overwhelming. So I ended up with a very short little poem, and I'm going to recite it for you. Oh my God. She's so happy to have a poem. It's quite short, Heike. I hope it isn't a disappointment. This is how it goes. Thank you for your everything. Nothing was left out. The smallest act to the most supreme was free of stain or doubt. You were rainfall in the desert, and you were starlight on the seas. And you found the light in life, and you covered a child's ease. Thank you for your everything. Nobody was left out. You took us like small sparrows in your hands and fed us drop by drop on words of truth. 10 million birds, 100 million birds. It can't be counted, it can't be measured. Nothing in this world is more dearly treasured. We thank you for your everything, Gurudev. Nothing was left out. So that's how I think of that. I do like that. Thank you for your It's a very simple poem. It was heartfelt. How can we possibly thank him? How could we possibly number our blessings or list our blessings? We were chosen. We were chosen. It's a grace. He told us, frankly, there's no way you could deserve becoming my disciple. He said those very words. It's not that we had accrued merit. We were just chosen. It was happenstance. Actually, he also said, many are called, few are chosen, right? He said, many are called, few are chosen, and some stick. I always thought, well, maybe I belong in the some stick category. I wasn't chosen, but I had locked on anyway. So, yes, when we come to the subject of the blessings of a great master, we're without words. We're completely without words. But I have an assignment here, 45 minutes, so I'm going to talk for 45 minutes. But I'm going to talk not just about the blessings of Swami Satchidananda, but of how to live a life in the spirit of gratitude. I'll tell you a story. And you might have heard the story. The story is about a farmer, rural setting, and his horse runs away. And the neighbors come by and they commiserate with him, say, oh, we're so sorry to hear about your horse. What are you going to do? It's such bad luck. Such bad luck. We're so sorry. And this farmer says, bad luck, good luck, who knows? The will of the Lord. Well, it happens that within a week the horse comes back and brings with him 2 wild horses. Quite beautiful species. So they have them in the corral, and sure enough, the neighbors turn up and say, wow, what good luck! You're the luckiest guy in the village. Now you have 3 horses, and they're beautiful. And the old farmer says, well, good luck, bad luck, who knows? It's the will of the Lord. Well, the farmer has a strapping young son, and he takes up the job of taming the wild horses. It goes on for a few weeks, and then the boy is thrown and breaks a leg. Okay, the neighbors show up again. Oh, we're so sorry. What a stroke of bad luck. We're so sorry about this. Will his leg heal? Will he be okay? They go on and on. Oh, thank you. Second blessing, the guru. Oh, no, third. Your face is the guru, and now a cup of water. So good. So the neighbors are commiserating. We're so sad about the broken leg. Farmer says, well, good luck, bad luck, who knows? The will of the Lord. Well, as it happens, their country is at war, and the king's men come by to collect all the healthy young men to go to battle. Well, of course, the broken leg meant that the farmer's son was exempted. Again, the neighbors turn up. Oh, what good luck! Your son is still at home. All our sons have gone to war. You're the luckiest one. He says, good luck, bad luck. Who knows? The will of the Lord. And that's where the story ends. That's exemplary for us. Because he didn't look at the social standard. He didn't listen to the neighbors. He was tuned to a different vision. This event has occurred in my life. The Lord has sent this event. Let's see how it plays out. Okay? And that's, I think, step 1 in our effort to have equanimity and to, that's step 1 leading to gratitude. Okay? First, we accept the events. Later, we learn to even be grateful for them. But the acceptance itself is a challenge. So many times Nalini will sit in front of a troubled soul and she has to find words to console them. And I find myself in that situation too. And what I end up saying usually is see that this event is prasad from the hands of the Lord. Hand-picked from the entire universe. this event was picked out and brought to you. Did you know after satsang, when prasad is brought around, how we treasure that? Blessed food, something to nourish us. So if we could only take the events in life in that way, oh, this misfortune, it's sacred because this was brought to me by the Lord. It's blessed. I don't do it. Don't get the wrong idea. But I know this is what we need to learn to do. To see the events themselves as they arrive as being something the Lord has with a lot of care, probably stayed up all night, picking out that particular event and delivering it to you so that your life is enriched by it. That's one example. Another example comes from the writings of Corrie ten Boom. Have you heard of Corrie ten Boom? She was a European. Haven't heard of her? No. She was Dutch. And she...
Teresa.
Teresa, is it?
What's his first name?
Corrie.
Oh, sorry.
C-O-R-R-I-E. It may be that her... Oh, you would have known they made a movie called The Hiding Place. Her family sheltered the Jews during the Second World War.
Anne Frank?
No, it wasn't Anne Frank. No. Corrie ten Boom. Her last name is ten Boom. There were two movies, I think, but one was The Hiding Place, and it was taken from the story of her life. And she ended up in a concentration camp for a couple of years and mysteriously was released. They don't know why. And then afterwards, she went back to Germany and worked with the German people. And she just had a heart that could not hold grudge, remorse, or anger. And but she writes about her experiences. And one of the things she does is give us exercises. So just if you want to mentally do this exercise as I explain it to you, she said, start with thinking of 5 blessings that you have, like lifelong blessings, things that you're just born into, maybe beautiful hair, or good at numbers, or, a rich family, whatever. We all have hundreds of blessings, but think of 5 that you were just born into. It can be simple things. You may have a great smile, or good posture, or maybe you won the broad jump contest in 7th grade. That was me. I think it was 17 feet or something. So think of 5 blessings. And now let's think of 5 things that have been lifelong problems. Because again, we're born into things. Sometimes, I understand that Reverend Padma Priya cannot find her way left, right, north, south, east, west. She is always lost. So things, we all have some traits like that. So think of 5 things that are always a challenge for you. Maybe you're intimidated by certain kinds of people. Maybe you're colorblind, I don't know. Think of 5 things that you struggle with. Forget about 5. Just think of 2 or 3. And now, look at the 5 blessings and think of the ways your life is enriched by them. Usually these are writing exercises, so you spend time recording. How's my life enriched by this, this, and this, and this? But now she turns it around and says, look at the 3 or 4 things that you struggle with and see how your life is enriched by it. And in fact, when you go deep, the very things that you curse, that you wish you hadn't been born into, end up giving your life depth, dimension, bringing out your inner strength. They end up being the greatest blessings. But the thing is to be able to shift the mind so when the event occurs, that we take a second look and we see not just the misfortune of the day, but the blessing carried in there. It's a challenge. It's a great challenge. Now the farmer, story of the farmer and his son. Now that story has a flaw in it, in that it's not real life, because the good luck and bad luck alternate perfectly. That's what makes the story fun. Life doesn't work like that. Usually it's bad luck 16 times in a row. That's when we really got to work on it. So, maybe I better look at my notes for a moment. Okay. What is gratitude? Let's look at that. What would you offer as a definition? What is gratitude?
Awareness.
It's not a hard question, yes.
Be thankful.
Being thankful. Would you add to that? Recognition of
something you got which was unexpected.
Right. Recognition of something that wasn't expected.
It's an awareness of something you usually take for granted, but it's not really.
Right. Oh, that's
Something
really deep.
special.
Things that are taken for granted. Very important to bring them to life. To light.
A feeling of grace.
Yes, thank you, Namani.
A vehicle.
Okay, thankfulness is a gratitude is a vehicle. A vehicle for what, Robert?
Love.
A vehicle for love. Develop that a little bit.
If you come from a place of gratitude, this puts you in touch most easily with the part of yourself that is not the ego. When we function from this place, there is only love.
That's right to the mark.
It's
Right to
also
the
the
mark.
key to contentment. You know, the first or second niyama. I always think the gratitude is the key to it. When you feel gratitude
Right.
and you express it, then you're content because you make yourself aware of all the blessings the uncountable blessings you are
Right. Right.
bestowed
Right.
with.
Yeah. These are pretty convincing definitions, aren't they? What else would you add on? Anything else? It's a vehicle for love. Key to contentment. Acknowledgement of that which we take for granted. Expression of thankfulness. What did you say, Vivek?
Recognition.
Recognition, yeah.
Helps us transcend our own nature.
Thank you. Swami Shivananda speaks of the mind as having opposing components, okay? So there's the effort and will to take us upward, and there's aspects of mind that take us downward. And the lower nature is always there, calling for attention. The capacity of a spiritual aspirant, given that we have relationship with the divine, and at least an inkling of grace, we have the capacity to move upward. But it's an enormous challenge dealing with the aspects of mind that tend to go down. I didn't write down Shivananda's words, but as I remember them, he said the mind is cunning, diplomatic, deceptive, and like unscrupulous. Maybe he didn't use the word unscrupulous, but he gave a lot of adjectives to indicate how there are aspects of the mind that will draw you down, down, down. And you have to be very, very discerning to catch them and turn around that energy. And I'll mention a very disconcerting story, but I think it's useful for us to look at. It's the story of a man, interesting, similar, a man whose son had gone to war. And the military sends a messenger saying his son has expired. The man is so utterly grief-stricken that he locks the door, shuts up the house, and just grieves for 2 weeks or so. But what happens, this might actually be a true story, I don't know. But what happens is the son is fine. And he returns home. And the military finds him, says, you made a horrible mistake, you've got to go and talk to your father. So he returns home. But the door is locked. He's calling, Dad, I'm okay. Dad, I'm okay. It was a mistake. It was a mistake. The father is so immersed in his grief that he won't go to the door. I don't know if it took him 20 minutes or 2 days or what. But what I know is that we have that tendency. We get locked into our version of things, and even when it's shown to us that it's wrong, we have a hard time letting go. We just have a hard time letting go. You know, when the old man or old woman is on their deathbed, I don't know if you've read about this. I talk about it often, so those who've been in my talks before, forgive the repetition. But, you know, at the end of life, the body systems shut down, like your digestion stops, elimination stops. After a while, you don't see well, don't hear well, little by little, each of the systems shuts down. So that's well known. But what isn't so well known is that the mental systems shut down. So we stop grasping, we stop ambition, we stop desiring. Of course we do. We know it's the last chapter, so we aren't engaged in a 10-year plan. We're starting to let go, let go. And the systems in the mind that sustain us through our healthy years include ambition, desire, attachment, and even greed. All of those shut down. Greed is given up. If you're on your deathbed, what are you going to enjoy anyway? Attachment has to be given up. You've made your will, allocated everything. You know you're about to lose your body. That's the ultimate attachment. Everything else seems immaterial compared to that one great loss. Okay? Desiring and ambition are gone. But what the old man or old woman holds on to towards the last to let go is the grudge. Even when everything else is gone, there's still the grudge. Oh, that cousin treated me wrong. That son left me when I needed him. If finally the grudge goes, then we know that soul rests in total peace. We've seen it. We hear about it. Doesn't happen every time. But a huge number of times on the deathbed, the person lets go. They let go of greed, ambition, desire, attachment. And the consciousness comes into its pure nature, into its pristine nature, and that is bliss. Well, the thing is that we have that pristine nature in us now itself, but it's covered and it's colored by these systems that are at work, and they sustain us. It isn't good to be greedy, but to have desire and ambition, those are very useful things. But they end up with deep roots in the mind. So it's a huge thing for us to be able to uproot them, release them, and come into our natural, pristine nature. But I bring this forward to you partly because as students of yoga, we want to achieve that pristine nature before we're on our deathbed. I mean, we'd like to enjoy it for 40 years, not just 1 or 2 hours, don't you think? That's a greed in itself. That's an ambition also, but it's a very healthy ambition. But I bring them forward because it's interesting that the grudges are like the last thing that the consciousness releases. And it's very important for us to know where the mind has attached itself and taken a position. And then start to work with that. And sometimes it's years of work. I'm 67, and in the enormous number of people I've met, there's some that have hurt me deeply. You know, it's inevitable. And the job of bringing love into my heart and seeing the hurts as something from which I've benefited, it's a pretty big job. It's a pretty big job. But all of you are adults and have sustained hurts too. You know, there's no perfect parent in the world, for one thing. And our moms and dads made a few mistakes along the way, and sometimes it's hard for us to let go of whatever way we may have suffered through their mistakes. And then in adulthood, it's a karma. We have karmas. And how are we going to purge those karmas unless somebody delivers the event that will free us? They say that the one who delivers your karmas is not any more personal than the postman delivering your mail. I mean, if you get a nasty letter, do you go out and hit the postman and yell at him? Well, it's almost as ridiculous when somebody has hurt you and we spend, 3 months of our lives in anger at them, because the Lord has chosen for that experience to come to you. Actually, one of the things that helped me most, was letting go of some old hurt and transforming it into some level of gratitude, not completely. But it was a story, and it's sort of a fanciful story, but actually it might be true. And it's the story of the soul before it incarnates. So suppose Heike and Roland and I are up there, and we're having a good time in our spirit form. And I say to Heike, my number's up. I've got to go down. And I've been getting my karmas together for my next incarnation. And I need a couple of enemies. So do you mind coming down to Earth for just 1 or 2 lifetimes and helping me out? Because I need somebody who will be strong and who will really hurt me deeply. And she said, oh, no, I'm here with Roland and we're playing chess. I don't want to interrupt the chess game. And I said, Heike, come on, Heike, you owe me. You've got to come down here. And then finally Roland says, hey, Heike, I'll do it. So then we jump into our magic capsule and come down and incarnate. But they say that those who, apparently everybody we know we've had past karmas with, past incarnations with. In fact, apparently everybody's already been our mother and father or something like that. So we've had a lot of incarnations together already. And so when the time is ripe for us to purge out certain experiences and certain past karmas, it's only those who love us most who are willing to step in and help us out. It's a little hard to believe, isn't it? Not yet, came out awfully fast. You got to shift to thinking the spiritual body. Think the spiritual body. Go ahead, Heike.
And I just wanted to ask you, is that also leaned on to Walsh, who wrote Conversation with God? There's this...
I didn't read it, no.
I Am the Light, it's called. Because it's exactly what you just mentioned, for those people who would like to read it or maybe give it away. It's a children's book, I Am the Light, and then it's actually... But don't forget that we made a deal. You say to me, please incarnate with me and hurt me because I really need to learn about forgiveness.
Right.
But you have to promise that you don't forget that we are both lights. Because when we forget, then we need a third soul to incarnate, to remind us that we're light. So the phrases remember we have a deal.
Right. Okay, remember we have a deal. That's interesting.
Yeah. So when somebody hurts us, we made a deal with them before we incarnated.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
They don't mean bad. We made a deal.
yeah,
That they do something to us, what we have to learn.
yeah. Yeah, we learn the most from the people who hurt us. We really do.
Oh, I knew you would notice you saw that.
That's probably our biggest challenge. But I think ultimately it's the most rewarding, because little by little, as we're able to deal with negative experience and learn the art of transforming it into positive experience, the whole life becomes more beautiful. There's the example of the human being is the Buddha covered with mud. And that's actually in actuality, because in parts of India, the Buddhist kingdoms and the Hindu kingdoms would be at war. And when the Hindus were winning, the Buddhists would go to their temples and they would cover the gold, the Buddhists, the priests would go to the temple, cover the golden Buddhas with clay and mud in order to disguise the value of them. And then if they, again, were ruling the kingdom, they would go wash them off, okay? But in our essence, in our spiritual essence, we're like gold. We're absolute treasures. And God in His wisdom has nicely disguised us as human beings. And a lot of it looks pretty muddy. But as we learn our practices, we're little by little able to shed that muddy covering and expose the gold that's inside. And I don't know of anything more effective or quick than learning forgiveness and practicing gratitude. It's the quickest way I know of getting to the gold. Because the hurts and grudges that we hold in the mind, they're a coloring that we carry into every situation. And they obstruct us from giving the totality of who we are to every situation. There's a tremendous power in that practice. Forgiveness and practicing gratitude. Robert, you know, I he was in such a good mood outside, unbelievable. So I asked him to come up here and sit toward the front. Do you know the song, My Favorite Things?
Yes.
Do you know the lyrics?
Kind of, but not well enough to recite.
Does anyone else know the lyrics perfectly? When the dog bites and the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad. Remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad. But then how does it go from there? Raindrops on roses.
Whiskers on kittens.
Whiskers on kittens.
Something or something and something with mittens.
Is it from The Sound of Music?
Yes.
Yes. Would you just give us as many words as you're able to remember? Come
You
use
see-
the microphone.
For me, I think that I'm going to need a lot of help. If I had a piano, I could play it.
Let's go to the other room, please.
Okay. Right. I'm going to need some help here. How does it start?
Raindrops on roses.
Raindrops on roses.
Whiskers on kittens.
Well, neither do I.
You sing, we'll sing from here.
Okay.
Well, join me first. You start.
You start.
Raindrops on roses and
Whiskers on kittens.
kittens. Da, 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 These are a few of my favorite things. things. When I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad.
Do it once more.
Before I do, might I be allowed to tell a very small story?
Absolutely.
On Good Friday, a dear friend of mine, and I'm sure of many of yours, left his body, and his name was Gopal Hari. I had we called each other brothers, and I had many wonderful times with Gopal. 20 years ago, before I moved to Devon from London, I was playing with Goma, and I would not sing. Gopal, I cannot sing. And all my life, although I played piano, I wouldn't sing. Gopal Hari never ever lost his temper. But after we met, he invited me to come to Oxford with his keyboards, with my keyboards to play with Goma. And after we had done a few concerts together, Robert, sing the names of God. Sing the mantra. No, Gopal, I cannot sing. And Gopal, he towered above me, he put his hands on his hips like this, and he screamed at me. And he screamed, "But you're not doing it for you!" Now I sing. It's a true story.
So you're still telling to sing.
So, here we go. Raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens. Dee-dee-dee-dee and the mittens.
Brown
Paper tied up with string. These are a few of my favorite things. When the dog bites, when the bees sting, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad.
It's not just.
Well, there you go. There's a wonderful practice. As you know, practice of gratitude is part of Pratipakshabhavana, isn't it? Do you all know what Pratipakshabhavana is?
It's a very long word.
You're starting. Does anybody not know?
Me.
Oh, okay. You don't know? All right. It's a practice we all do to some extent anyway. It's when a negative thought arises in the mind, we awaken the opposing thought, a positive thought on the same subject. Okay? So it's recognizing when the mind has negativity and then bringing in positivity to replace it. I always give the example of a computer, because when you open the computer screen, it gives you a menu, and then whatever you click on fills the screen. Well, that's how our mind is. Whatever we click on in any situation fills our consciousness. But the key is recognizing when it's become negative. And when we see, oh my God, that's really negative thinking, then we go back to the menu and click on something else. Because the Lord gives us huge menus. There's a huge number of things. It's not just like your computer screen with maybe 20 things. But there's a huge number of ways to look at every situation. And so there's many opportunities or options for what we focus on and how we can change the negative mind to positive. But the thing that's so interesting is we often don't recognize when we become negative. We see it as accurate perception. Sometimes you see it as insight or a stroke of genius. So, even premonition. There's a lot of different ways that negative thought presents itself. And it's not that, one thing I sometimes have a little trouble with Pratipaksha Bhavana because people will use it to smooth out a situation that needs a thorough examination. So it's not to replace that. It's good to be discriminating and insightful, discerning, and to analyze. Gurudev gave a lot of importance to that. He said you can solve your problems just by using your mind. Analyze carefully, understand it deeply. There's always a solution there. The mind is a great tool, use it properly. The Pratipaksha Bhavana doesn't replace our capacity to understand, but when we realize that a situation is causing us to respond negatively, that's where we go to our menu and click on something else so that we can bring the positive energies back into the mind. So that cute little song is actually, it's such a simple song, but it's actually a powerful practice because it means shifting the energies from the negative into the positive. And there's nothing in the world that will benefit us more. That one practice is pretty much all we need. It's just learning to apply it in all the situations. As we practice it at first in small, ordinary, everyday things, but little by little, it's like the clay coming off the Buddha. As we transform layers of the mind, we keep finding deeper and deeper layers that also need work. And sometimes it comes down to very central issues, core issues, where we keep, it seems endless, we keep working on it, keep taking the practice of transforming to positivity and using it over and over and over and over again. The same lady, Corrie ten Boom, who did the 5 blessings, 5 challenges, and to find out each rewards you. Her family, most of her family died in the Second World War, and they were turned in by one man. And after she was released from the concentration camp, she went back to her hometown, and sure enough, that man was there flourishing. And she said she would think of him and be angry at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and she would forgive him. But by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, his name would come up again, and she'd have to forgive him again. And then at 2 o'clock in the morning, she would wake up, and she'd have to forgive him again. And it went on. But she didn't let go. She just, when his image came up, though she had lost almost all her family members, she forgave him every time. And finally they were actually, I don't know if they were face to face. She ended up being face to face, I think, with one of the guards at the concentration camp, a cruel guard. And he came to her and said, "Please forgive me." And she couldn't. But she prayed for strength, and she lifted her hand. She could do that much, to put her hand in his hand. And she said when their hands made contact, so much energy ran through them that they both cried.
Wow.
So there's something, I'm just saying, it's not an easy job. But there's a pathway there, and we know that it works. And we don't, we haven't suffered as Corrie ten Boom suffered. So if she can do it, we can do it. And it's a matter of bringing to light what needs to be healed and tackling it with positive thought. So these are my thoughts. I don't know if I went a little bit off the subject, counting our blessings. I went more into the area of positive thought, transforming transforming negativity into positivity, that if you learn to do that, that will be the greatest blessing of all. Yeah, truly it will. So thank you for your steady attention. Let me take a glance at my notes and see if there's anything else I should mention. I think that's most of it. Every form of positivity and gratitude, thankfulness, it feeds our soul. And the soul is longing for all forms of happiness and love to come to it so that it can grow and fill us entirely. And that's what we hope to be as children of Swami Satchidananda and students of yoga, so that our being itself can radiate happiness and love to everyone, everywhere we go. Please inhale for Om. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Let's do it again. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May the light of truth, may the light of love overcome all darkness. Jai Shri Sakuru Maharaj Ki Jai.